welcome back to Kim Talks Resilience. I'm your host, Kim Hayden, and I am so grateful that you're taking a few moments of your time to share it with me today. Kim Talks Resilience is, by the way, if you're the first time here, is all about resilience of women in business, life, love, and business, all of them. And we talk to women who are making great strides in this to share with us their insight and inspiration for women around the world. Because, hey, ladies, we gotta stick together. So today's guest, pretty amazing gal. As soon as I met her, she's really working on expanding her messaging awareness because her genius is already in place. And I met her actually taking that initiative at a media conference where she actually pitched me. And as soon as I met her, she had me at hello. What can I say? So, Jodi Wellman is a leading authority in living lives worth living. Love that. Love it. As a speaker and a facilitator, she helps her clients live squander-free lives while they're lucky enough to still be above ground, while clearly beginning with the big end in mind. She named her business 4,000 Mondays because it shines a light on the finite number of weeks we have to live like we mean it. Jodi holds a master's of applied positive psychology. This is going to be great to unpack
Mhm.
from the University of Pennsylvania, where she is also an assistant instructor. As a certified coach with 25 years of corporate leadership experience, she helps executives, teams, and high performers work well and live even better. All right. How'd I do, Jodi? Only stumbled
Um,
across a couple words, but hey, I'm from Kansas. We're lucky we get that many sequentials. I don't have a single subscriber from Kansas. I don't know.
yeah, we got to change that today. That's our mission.
They all listen. They go, "I should always listen Kansas." Okay. So we're going to dive right in. I like to find out a little bit of who you are. And this, Jodi, is the kind of the backstory of what that pre-frame is to why you do what you do today.
Mm,
So
sure.
I know you mentioned that you're in California, but you're from
Originally from
Ontario.
Toronto. Yes.
Toronto. This is and that just so folks know geography wise, um, uh, only like, you know, I don't know if you could get any further in North America. That's pretty impressive. So share with me, who are you, Jodi?
Ooh, I love the loaded question. Well, because growing up in and around Toronto, I have like most of us, we have these little flashes of pictures of moments of stories and images. And one thing that I think drives a little bit of how I've become this not so weird, morbid person. I have to qualify that. I can be morbid, but not so weird about it. Um, is that when I was growing up, I remember distinctly my mom wearing on her acid washed denim jacket. This was the 80s. She had buttons, they say gimmicky little things. And one of her buttons that's still so clear to me was life sucks and then you die. And
I
so,
remember that button.
right. Maybe you had that button on your acid wash jacket.
I'm not that old. I'm close. That old. But yes, I do remember that button because that was a button. That was t-shirts. That was the Brat Pack mantra.
Yes. And so, it's very ha-ha, tongue in cheek, silly. But I think it sowed the seeds early on of right. Not so thankfully the life sucks part didn't stick with me because, I pursued positive psychology. So obviously I'm interested in happiness. But the whole part about right,
Yeah.
we're totally gonna die. That kind of stuck with me. And fortunately, it didn't spin me into an existential crisis at age 8. That would have been very unfortunate. But it did resonate deeply in a whoa, almost sparking the funny side of it, the absurdity of this life we live that we're all working so hard and then one day poof, we're going to be gone, so
Yep.
that was an early influencer, I think, for me of right, this is all temporary. What are we doing?
Yeah. And we spend so much of that time chasing what others tell us we should achieve.
Ooh, that's, you immediately made me think about one of the first trade books that I read around the topic of mortality, and it's called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying by Bronnie Ware. She was a palliative care nurse, and she compiled. And when you just said that, Kim, it made me think the number one regret of the dying in her experience was that people wished on their deathbeds. They said, I wished I'd live a life that was true to what I wanted to live, not what others expected of me.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I was recently speaking to another podcaster, has great podcast called Raw Rants, and Stefan, really sharp guy. But like this is where you need to go. You need to be on Raw Rants. And by the way, I'm not being paid to plug that. But we were talking about, are you complete? And I said, yeah, you know what? I lived beyond what I thought I would have. And I'm grateful for what I've had. So I could go today and feel that I'm complete. However, because I'm here, I know I have a next journey. Right. And I think that's we tend not to realize when something is we've done well, right? And it's okay to move on. Like these are real things that, and I think a lot of women face this. So let's dive into what you do, because you really work around this psychology of not fear mongering. You're not a fear monger. I want everybody to know this. Yes, you got 4,000 Mondays. And Jodi's not fear mongering. She's trying to bring into clarity that when you have a finite, it's just like dollars. When you have a finite number of dollars, you want to ensure that those dollars are applied right. So if I tell you today that you have $4,000 this month and your rent is $2,200 and your groceries are going to be another $1,000, what are you going to spend the next $800 on to quote make your life awesome? And that's the same with the 4,000 Mondays. Am I correct?
Ooh, that was so perfectly put. I might use that reference.
Go for it. Go for it. Okay, so run me down. What do you do and why are you here?
What on earth? And thank you, by the way, for qualifying that this is not fear mongering, because while I do dabble in death, I like to think that I have fun with it. I'll like poke a stick at it and we can again, kind of just from a safe distance, like poking a snake, we can make sure we're not going to get bit by it, but use it to our advantage. So yes, we're going to toy with the idea. And I like to think of like buddying up with the Grim Reaper, but we're going to move fast into so what, the living part. And so what I get to do every day, and I guess I'm really deliberate in saying what I get to do, because I think a lot of this is about making the choice to do the stuff that does light you up, is I get to speak. And I love nothing more than delivering presentations on this and doing workshops for teams and groups of associations. And I want to yell this from the mountaintops, what we're going to talk about today. And so I do that in front of groups and workshops. And I do some one-on-one coaching still, and an online course that people can take at their leisure in their pajamas. And so I just find ways every now and then, a retreat somewhere really cool where we get to go and again, dabble in the idea of, time's ticking, let's make the most of it. So waking people up, any kind of experience I can think of, an opportunity to not whisper, but yell, like, life's short, let's use this time. And now I will calm down for a moment.
No, that's so good. I love energy. And we can get as loud as we want, because, the only person that I feel for is an editor who has to listen to me. Okay, so let's dive in. So then that's what you do, but what are you providing to people? What is your program? What are you speaking on?
Yes.
Let's get into a little bit of that meat.
Yes, the detail. So I initially start with the revelation that is never a spoiler, nor is not required, that we're going to completely move towards the end of a life, and we will end our lives. And we get very clear. I like to count our Mondays. I like everybody to literally do that math. So I know today, as of this week, I have 1,899 Mondays left on average. And by tapping into what's called temporal scarcity, which is the idea that when we perceive something as a limited time only, or that it is rare, our perception of how valuable it is absolutely skyrockets. And so that's the initial stage, is just getting everybody to stop and do, whoa, wait, this is the math. This is how much I have left. And for some people, it can get literal with, wait, this is how many summers I have left with my kids. Or for some people, they only take a really massive trip, maybe every 5 years. And so then it's but how many massive trips do you have left where you're going to go overseas? And when you stop and do that math and recognize through temporal scarcity that your options are going to be limited, then what we do is we catalyze that feeling of, admittedly, it is scarcity. And usually as a coach, we do not want to talk about scarcity. We usually want to talk about abundance. But research is so clear that when we wake up to that fact, that's the kick in the butt we need in order to then say, well, so in light of that, if I have 1,899 of these puppies left, what would make it fantastic for me? And then there's a framework within that I can unpack for people to help them see how you want to look at your life. And so we can go into that if you want.
Well, okay. So how do you get them to move beyond regret into rejoice? Like, how do
Ooh.
you move them? Because we naturally are hardwired into negative thoughts. And we all know that the brain cannot have a negative and a positive at the same time. I mean, James Clear, one of my favorite books. No, I just Habits.
Power. Yeah.
What's the name of his books?
Yeah, I know. I'm thinking Power of Habit. That's Charles Duhigg.
No.
James Clear is
Atomic Habits.
Yes,
Atomic
thank you.
Habits. Love James Clear. And I love that. And I listened to that so many times because I love road trips. That's perfect time for a book, folks. And that's the big one, is that you cannot have negative and positive. And yet we're walking around, especially when you have people in their 40s and 50s and they've gone through financial reset. And you can end up in a decade of financial reset.
Yeah.
And how do you get that? And then that's a decade loss. That's a decade of Mondays that, I mean, you're still sucking air, but how do you take that regret and shift them to the rejoice that there is still time?
Right. Well, I do think that naturally what happens when we tune into the scarcity, because like you said, we have a negativity bias. We might judge ourselves harshly for what we did, and we can work on that. But if our exercise here is intended to be animating towards what do you want to do moving forward, it's all about, quite frankly, looking ahead into how do you want it to be from now on, and really talking about like what is within your sphere of control, because a heck of a lot is. All the garbage and all the silly and goofy and stupid and drunken mistakes you made in the past, well, you know what? Let's pause for a sec, leave that in the dust. And I'm going to actually take regrets and do something different with them, because regrets are actually amongst my favorite topics, because I do think that they are a portal to a well-lived life. And it's that most of us, while we might regret that we bought the house we couldn't afford or did something, most of us, at least when it comes to the end, regrets are comprised usually of the feelings of, oh man, I wished I did that. So it's the stuff we didn't do more than the dumb things we did do. And this just happens psychologically in our brains because we're able to rationalize the dumb things, sometimes better than others. Some of us are harsher than others on ourselves, but we can generally understand, yeah, that happened, or we could even play the victim card. But whoa, the little spiral that goes on in our brains when we stop and do the, if I had done that, because then we go into the whole paths not taken. Ooh, that's a field day. Ooh, in our brains where we start to then pontificate, but then that could have happened. And then I could have met the man of my dreams. And then I could have been a billionaire. And then, so I stop and say, let's forget about the garbage in the past. Let's stop and say, if you were to find out tonight that your life's calling it curtains on you, where would you feel that pang of regret that, oh, I always wanted to do X, Y, Z? And it could be a million things, right? I wish that I'd gone to Thailand, or I wanted to learn that new language, or I wished I had made up with my brother, or I wished that I had just once had red hair like him. I wish, whatever, all the things are that we might think. But that, to me, that's the opportunity, because now we have a chance to course correct. And that's the step into living a life well lived, even if you are broke. Now, you may not go on a luxurious trip to Thailand if you're broke, but you can.
But find creative ways. So, I myself having had a 6 and 7 figure income for over a decade, have chosen uh, to walk away from it to
Mhm.
pursue a new path. And
Mhm.
so for myself, going on the luxury trips will not be an option right now.
Yeah.
However,
Yeah.
I can talk my way around the globe.
Ooh.
So finding the ways, people want stories. We have never been in a space
Hmm.
and a time
Hmm.
where people are not looking for connectivity. And if you
Hmm.
have a great story,
Hmm.
right? If you're
Hmm.
open to sharing, there's
Hmm.
opportunities. There's opportunities at every turn, everywhere. It's
Hmm.
almost like we're shifting back to those barter days, you know? And so I'll bring this if you bring that. And there's so much of that opportunity out there. It's no longer definitively cut. So let's talk about, because you've been in corporate,
Mhm.
you teach teams and stuff. I'm going to
Mhm.
actually, I would like to get your insight, and this is probably the piece that I will actually highlight. We have gone since the pandemic through what we're calling the Great Resignation, and now we're in the second generation of the Great Resignation.
Yeah.
So, women over 40 chose not to go back to corporate,
Mhm.
started a coaching or a speaking or something along those lines, somehow, or a small business
Mhm.
or e-commerce or Shopify store. They started something.
Mhm.
And then the fear around not having a paycheck
Mhm.
drove them back into corporate. So
Mhm.
29% of those women went back into corporate and now are looking at coming back out of corporate because they realize, they do know, we do know that there's only so many Mondays. And
Mhm.
is this where I want to spend my energy? Is this filling my cup?
Mhm.
So let's walk through that. What are some of the things that they can grab onto, hold on to,
Mhm.
get inspired by? If that woman came to you,
Yeah.
she's
Yeah.
44 years of age, she's afraid of not having the paycheck because she's had it for 24 years of her life.
Right.
She went to school, she got all this university debt to do this job, and now
Yeah.
she's thrown it away so she can start a Shopify store.
Oh,
So, and that's the,
yeah. I
you know, that's the Thanksgiving this. Come on, Thanksgiving. Now, Martha, we paid all that money, and you got those beautiful teeth that we paid all that money for. And you explain this Shopify thing to me. Do you really think this is a wise move? Come on, we know this is this is a discussion people
Right.
have, right?
Right.
Because people don't let people grow, right?
Ooh, yes,
They
yes, they
don't.
got their own baggage.
Because I did 20 years in real estate, I actually teach baby agents how to build their spheres. And the first thing I tell them is, don't rely on that friends and family.
Oh,
They will make
I
you go broke and insane. So
oh,
let's move out. So
yeah,
let's walk through her scenario.
yeah,
You're talking to a group. You've been hired to
yeah,
speak to this group
yeah.
of women who are doing
Yep.
these huge pivots.
Yeah.
What's that look like?
Mm. This is so, so ripe. And I had this conversation yesterday, except we could sub out Shopify with Etsy. Same
There you go.
idea. um, okay, so there's a premise initially, and I'm just going to I'm going to go into the depths of some positive psychology research, which really does show that we have this a notion around income and happiness. And like, I'm going to be the first to admit that like money can't buy you deep, everlasting love and fulfillment, which is the point I'm going to make. But I'm just going to deviate for a second, say, but yeah, it's amazing and convenient and it
It
gives you
does
lots
make
of
life
pleasures.
easier.
Right.
It does make life easier.
For sure. So like, I don't want to be out on cloud nine, dreaming and talking la with you. Like, let's just say that first, money is lovely for all those reasons. And yet research does show that it used to be 75 grand was like this funny little mark on the chart where when you made more than 75 grand, people always often think, well, if I make more money, then I'll have a greater sense of subjective life satisfaction. And it used to be 75 grand. And now studies or research kind of showing 100,000 is definitely a sort of a line in the sand where you can't be at a poverty level and definitely and feel like you have a real sense of thriving, which is really the language we use in positive psychology,
Yeah.
struggling, surviving, and thriving, right?
Yeah.
But research is pretty clear that there is no real return on money over that mark of in and around 75 to 100,000. So when you go beyond that, then you're really not getting a return on feeling happy, feeling fulfilled, feeling a sense of meaning. In fact, a lot of research shows that the chart is funny to me because the chart, I'm going to try and do it backwards, showing you on Zoom, that life satisfaction does go up to 75, 100, and then it plateaus, and even at 200, it actually goes down, which is hilarious to me. So
Interesting.
all this is just, I just wanted to stage set and say, let's just frame money for a second, even in research around how compensation can be motivating or not. At the end of the day, most of us want to go home at night, or even if we're working from home, we just want to move from our desk to our couch, or we want to feel that sense of meaning, like what we did had some kind of purpose in the world. Small, tiny is fine, doesn't need to be grand. And we want to feel like it delivered us some kind of contentment and joy. And so at the end of the day, if opening up the Shopify shop is something that gets you excited in the morning to do the work you want to do, and you feel like maybe, wow, someone bought my apron, or someone purchased my course, or if that gives you the feeling of immense satisfaction and pride, and we all know what those good feelings feel like at work, then I would just challenge you and say, well, then what is it worth to say, quote unquote, stuck in the job that is you're feeling anchored in? And I have my own story of that for many years where I did feel stuck. And I'm glad I went through it because now I can relate better to others about that feeling, like the trappings of success, right? But at the end of the day, again, back to this whole notion of life's too short to toil in a job that might have benefits and compensation that sound good. But if you're feeling empty, and if you're feeling disenchanted most of the time and most of the hours you spend at work, then I will just say, then is that the life you want to live?
Yeah.
And so when I work now, admittedly, I don't have that conversation if I'm working in an intact team, because the leader would say, thanks, exit out, stage left immediately, because now I'm basically encouraging everyone on their team to leave. I do have this conversation in associations, women's groups of people that, that the leader isn't there hoping to keep the team retained beyond tomorrow. But that's the wake up call is, what is your time worth?
So then how do we get happier?
Yep.
If you are in a team environment and, because you know what, we can all talk about this, but the reality is if you're a single mom of 4 and you don't have the luxury of those choices.
Yes. Okay.
I was raised by a single mom of 4. We were so poor. My mom, God love her, woman worked all day, every day, 3 night graveyard shifts at the village pancake house, and we still qualified for food stamps. That's how poor we were.
Yeah.
She didn't have the luxury. She had to keep that low paying job. So we had medical benefits.
Yep.
What do you say to somebody like that?
Yeah. So I support that. And I think I disappoint some people when I say this, because I come from, in working in corporate and then doing a lot of career coaching. I think a lot of people expect and want the answer to be some panacea about you need to love every day in your job, and your job needs to deliver for you on all accounts. And I've seen too much, I've heard too much, and I have a fuller, rounder belief in life now to say that, yeah, you know what? Sometimes you got to work the graveyard shift at the pancake house, or you gotta. And what we need to do is stop putting so much pressure on our jobs to be something that fills something up inside of us. Because what I usually notice is that a life well lived has so many different domains. Career is a chunk of it. And okay, let's be honest, it's a really hefty chunk. It's a big piece of that pie, especially, in your working years. But we've got family and friends. We've got our the rest of the social life. We've got our health. We've got our learning and growth and development aspect. We've got our, R&R, like what are you doing for recreation and time? What about spirituality? So I look at the whole picture of life. Back to your beginning about someone saying about being whole or complete. I say, well, I think we might need to be more discerning and also intentional about augmenting the crappy job, or the job that quite frankly just doesn't deliver on the fulfillment front, Well, then how do you fill it up outside of work? And it doesn't have to mean then that you get another part-time volunteer opportunity reading to kids after school, because you might not have time for that. But I will challenge every single person that there are ways to build vitality and meaning into your life that fill your bucket up. That means that then the work stuff is a little bit more perfunctory, and that's okay.
And I think that having these real conversations is critical, because we are um they'll associate like social media
Mm.
to anxiety, to depression, right? We're watching other people have these great lives and we feel that we're not moving fast enough.
Yeah.
We're not being as big as we are supposed to be.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't wish crappy beginnings on anybody, but I'll tell you,
Yeah.
my superpower is significant childhood abuse,
Mm.
because it makes me realize, when you beat the odds, does anybody do their odds? What's the odds of me actually doing this or being here or completing that? And when you look at those odds and you go, holy crap, insane. Why am I not telling this? I just challenged 7 newbie real estate agents
Yeah.
to write a third party bio,
Ooh.
because I love. So go to other people, ask them what's great about you, what they remember about you, what they love about you, and then put that third party bio up on your mirror. And I want you to read it every day, because when somebody asks you, what do? You say, oh, I'm a podcast expert with a past in real estate, and I teach real estate agents how to toot their own horn and launch their 90 days,
Oh,
right? Instead of saying, well, I did real estate for 20 years and I quit real estate and now I'm doing this, and, so
yeah.
on, right?
Yeah.
So
Huge
let's
difference in what you said.
let's real quickly go into what is your story of resilience, because you said that you work that corporate job, you're able to relate to people. What's your story of resilience?
Mm. Hmm. Well, I had a very checkered past with food. So I took a decade and I squandered it to eating disorders that completely took me out of kind of being present in life. And like anybody who has any addiction story knows, it is a seemingly helpful coping mechanism, but it kind of wrecks your life. And I used it during a time where I was longing for something different at work, but I didn't know how to go about doing it. So that's kind of my stuck story in a way, is that I don't know how to make a change. I like the money, I like the title, I don't know what to do. And so it reared its ugly head for me through food. And I tried valiantly for help. And then oftentimes I didn't try at all for help because I didn't want the help. And then I wanted them. And it was just, I mean, like let's picture a roller coaster with just packed with food. It was just up and down. And then fortunately, actually it's funny because sometimes you need distance of time to see things. I am very aware that, I was longing to get some help and support and to really start engaging in life again fully. So, most people didn't know that I had these issues. And so I hid it really well, which also then creates that just, the feelings of shame because you're hiding something that feels really shameful. And if anybody, by the way, listening wants to like reach out and talk to me about, barfing your brains out, please, I would love nothing more than to talk to you and help you realize that there is life on the other side. Um, but for me, it was generally wanting to stop, but also I had a reason that felt compelling to me. And it was that I was accepted in the Masters of Applied Positive Psychology program at University of Pennsylvania. And I was set to start in September. And I found out in May. And I just felt like I got to get my life back on track here. I, I, I can't be going in between classes to go and binge and purge and while going back to class to learn how to live a life well lived. Like that I don't want that life. And so for me, it acted as a catalyst, admittedly, to try to clean up my act. And I got lots of help. And I thankfully, gratefully did get back on track. And for me, that was a real version of plugging into life again, plugging back in a way that it's so easy to disengage in the ways that many of us do, right? Through some drinking or some, I met with someone yesterday who's now in Gamblers Anonymous because they knew they needed to stop that way
Yep.
of coping, so all the ways we just try and defer reality, or we're scared or afraid of what might happen, or failure or rejection, or we could go on and on, but the point is it's worth it to get the help you need, or to focus or work with a coach or someone like you in order to get back on track, and make the most of the time that we're lucky to be above ground.
Absolutely. Making the most of our time. What's a book you would recommend that every person should read?
Mm, Gosh, out of so many, I'm a big fan of a book called Staring at the Sun by Irv Yalom. He's an existential psychologist, and it's about this topic that I love, which is recognizing, like, staring at the sun means looking at the fact in the face and the reality of mortality and using it to our advantage.
And where can everybody find you? So you have a program to help serve people.
Yeah.
We've talked briefly about that. You have self-guided in your pajamas. You have some one-on-one, lots of speaking opportunities. So if anybody out there sees Jodi here and goes, you know what, I really would like her to come and talk to, our women's business league, or, anything along those lines, do reach out to her. So how can they reach you?
Oh, thank you for asking that. You can go to 4000mondays.com, and I am there. I live there in the box of the internet, and yeah, 4000mondays.com. There are resources and a way to contact me.
Now, is that spelled out 4,000, or is that the number 4,000?
I prefer spelled out, but I had to get the number because I knew people would do that too.
Okay. So either way, we're going to find her. Awesome. So let's close this out with a quote. What is a quote that resonates with you?
Hmm. I have, there's a quote by Hunter Thompson. I don't know if you've heard of it, and I'm going to pull it up because it's long enough that I don't want to ruin it. Okay, here, I just had it, and tell me what you think. Give me a sec. I just had it. And hold tight while my apologies.
No
I just had
worries.
it, and now it is. Where did it go? I had it on my browser, and now it took over.
No worries. No, I had somebody read that. What was it? Nine Habits of Successful People in Rich Dad or in Napoleon Hill. So we're
Okay. Okay, hang on. I'm gonna have to retype it in. All right. Okay, so this is by Hunter S. Thompson. Favorite quote of all time. Life should not be a journey to the grave with the intention of arriving safely in a pretty and well-preserved body, but rather to skid in broadside in a cloud of smoke, thoroughly used up, totally worn out, and loudly proclaiming, wow, what a ride.
Life is an amusement park, folks. Get out there and ride every ride. I'm going. So that's where that came from. That is beautiful. That is beautiful, and it's okay because you know what? I remember when I got my first tattoo. My mother's like, "Oh, what's that going to look like when you're old?" I said, "Probably like crap, like the rest of me."
It'll match.
You know what? Folks, I'm 53. I've lived a really robust life. I have beautiful children. I have an amazing husband. I've had the opportunity to make $1 million in a year, and I've had an opportunity to lose 1.3 million in a year. So the reality is I've lived a big life, and that I've changed lives along my journey. And I think that's the big thing is are you here for a reason, and are you doing something with it? And it's okay if you've got 4 kids that you've got to raise on that shoestring budget, pack a picnic and enjoy a book. Do those little things, because I'll tell you, I remember every time my mom made caramel corn every Christmas and put together bags of caramel corn for our friends because we didn't have the money for Christmas gifts, because those things go a long way. And those things are the things that people will say at your funeral. So, how did I get what you're saying, Jodi? Do I get it?
Can I have you summarize everything for me every day like that?
I love you. I love you. I love what you're doing. I love what you're doing. And more people need to listen to you. Folks, we're out of time. This is Kim Talks Resilience. And yes, you just saw tears. You normally don't see tears with me, but you know what? You get one go around. You get one go around. And we have, each and every one of us, have the ability to right a wrong, make an impact, and live a life well deserved. You deserve to live a life well lived. So, again, Kim Talks, Kim Hayden, I am super grateful that you shared your time with me. Until next time, you know what? Take care of yourself. Be kind to yourself. And if you ever need a little more resiliency, lean into our community and grab your free all access and our magazine at resilientgift.com. Bye for now.